Hello and welcome to episode 16 of the Slow Crafting Podcast. My name's Nadine and I'm coming to you today from in the northwest of England near Manchester. This is a bi-weekly podcast about knitting, spinning, crochet, sewing, a whole range of fibre goodness, and trying to incorporate a slow living and slow fashion approach into all those things. Okay, got quite a packed episode for you today because I just seem to have gone a bit craft mad. So I'll try and get through it all because I want to get this edited and out on the same day. I'll explain more about that later on in the episode. So today I'm going to show you a couple of finished objects, then talk about some natural dyeing I've done, my current works in progress, looking at the table, a couple of acquisitions, and some shameless self-promotion at the end, which might actually work in your favour as well. Double plus. So finished objects, right, you've seen this one as a finished object sort of before. I'll hold it a bit closer. This is some of the textile yarn that I showed you in my There's More to Life, the merino episode. It was 11 or 12 that I showed you the textile in. Now when you saw this originally it was white, but it is now a lovely speckled blue. Twist it around, you can see there's some darker patches, there's still some white patches. If I actually hold it there, my face is in better focus as well. Don't know what's going on with the lighting today, it's all a bit weird. So yeah, there's a really nice patch here of dark speckledy splotches. So I wanted to knit this as a sock yarn. I know it's only a 2-ply, but it's primarily a meat sheep is the textile, so it's quite, the wool's quite rustic and sturdy. So I thought I would see how it went in a sock, but I wouldn't wear it as a white sock. No. So when I was doing my natural dyeing, this isn't natural dyeing, I had some food colouring out as well, and I had a bit left, so I thought, oh, I'll over dye or dye the textile in blue. So basically I just threw it in a bowl, chucked some of the diluted food dye on it, and then blotched some neat food dye on it. I used the Wilton's food dye. This is royal blue, I think. Yeah, I think that bit there is my favourite bit. I don't normally like speckled yarns for garments and things, but for socks, I'm happy with that. So yes, and then microwaved it until the colour was set. Did make the house smell of hot wool and lanolin, but no, it turned out really well. I'm pleased with it. I'm not going to be casting it on just yet. I think I'll save that for my Christmas Eve cast on, because I like to have a pair of handspun socks on the go somewhere near Christmas, and if it's handspun and hand dyed, all the better. So yes, that's that one. My next finished object is also spinning. I've got 2 skeins here. I'm not sure you're going to get the good colour on it today. This is 100% merino. It's a commercially prepared comb top, and it's worked up at about a DK weight. Now I've spun this for my friend who's a recent knitter, and she moved sort of halfway across the country back in summer. So I said, as a bye-bye, sorry you're going away present, I'd spin her up some wool that she can knit with. So we went to the local yarn shop before we left, and she picked out the fibres. So this is, it's quite, in real life, it's got a lot more pink in that it's showing up on here, because on here it's looking quite of a grey purple, whereas this is sort of antique rose ish in real life. But yes, so I'm hoping to get that in the post out to her either today or tomorrow, and I hope she likes it. It's not as consistent as I would have hoped for, given that it's a gift, but hopefully she won't notice. Right, so that's my second finished object. My third is a pair of socks. Now, these have been started and finished since the last episode, but they are baby socks. Well, toddler socks. Making a start on my Christmas crafting and presents, I decided to make some socks for both my daughters, but I've only made them for the youngest one so far. So again, the colour's not brilliant today. These are less blue than they look on there. They're purples and greys, and it's just basic sock, 2x2 rib all the way down with a fish lips kiss heel. And I measured her feet to work out how long they were before I started the toe decreases. Just used my normal standard sock formula for it. Now, the wool I used for these was out of stash, so that fits in keeping with my using what I have rather than buying endless amounts of new stuff. And this was, I think it was probably a present from my mum at some point. It's Erika Designs, I'm going to get it, bamboo superwash wool, so it's 50% superwash wool, 25% polyamide and 25% viscose, so it'll be the viscose that's the bamboo. Hold something here and I get a proper focus, but I can't do the entire podcast like this. Is it still in focus if I stick? No, doesn't. It blurs out again, but I don't know where the bright light's coming from. Sorry, I'm sick. No, I'm still getting bright light from there. Waffling. Yes, anyway, so it's this. And obviously I prefer not to use superwash yarns, and ideally I wouldn't necessarily want to use bamboo either, just because of the processes involved in making it. But it was in stash, so it was there to be used. So yes, that's one thing ticked off my Christmas list as well. Now, I've done some natural dyeing and some eco printing. My approach to natural dyeing and eco printing is not as scientific and methodical as it should be. I do have a tendency to just wang everything on or in a pot and see what happens. Yeah, so nothing I get is repeatable or even guaranteed or predictable, and yeah, probably not the safest practices either, because I know at least one of the substances I was doing some eco printing with, it can actually be, well, some sources said mildly harmful, other sources said toxic. Not you will die immediately, but don't get it in your system. But I do at least use separate pans and things for doing my natural dyeing. So one safety procedure in there. Had blue hands and all sorts, so not entirely the best practices to follow. Now, I'll show you some of the fabrics, because I was doing some I was attempting to do some eco printing on some cotton. Now, the first lot of cotton I'll show you was mordanted in using rhubarb, because I had plenty at the allotment and in the garden, so that didn't involve me having to buy any alum or any other mordanting substances, and just use the stems, because I think you can use the stems or the leaves to mordant fabric with. But I didn't want to use the leaves because then you have to be a lot more careful because of the oxalic acid. Right, these not successful really. Some of them I used a blanket dye technique with as well, which is why I had the food dyes out, because I dipped some of the cotton into a solution of the blue Wilton's food dye, and then laid that on top of the other sheet of cotton that had the plants on for the eco printing. So no, I'm telling a fib. These aren't the ones that were mordanted in rhubarb at all. These were mordanted in, well, they originally dyed with tea, so the tannins in the tea hopefully should act as a mordant on it. Now, I've not rinsed it off, so they've got still bits of plant material on there. So as you can see, we've not got any plant printing really, we've just got splotches and sparkles, not sparkles but splotches from the food colouring blanket dye. Now on some of them, you're not going to see it on here, but on some of them there is a sort of a faint ghost of a fern print. On this one it did work out slightly better. Again, I don't think you're going to see because I've got too much blue light on here. Oh, you might do. There's a yellow patch just sort of here and a bit further across. So some of the leaves did leave a yellow area. I think they were the geranium leaves actually that printed across. But yeah, so pretty much they're all of a similar ilk, and I've got about 7 or 8 of those. Now I know what I did wrong there, because I boiled it rather than steamed it. So the plant material just essentially broke down. It didn't leave a dye trace behind. But then I thought, right, I'll have a go again and steam it this time. So this one was actually mordanted in the vinegar, and we've got more colour transfer from the plants. Can't see. Yeah, and I think that the best colours that came out were the purples. So we've got some yellows, some browns, some purples. Now the purples were from some scabiosa, and there's a brown bit there. Some scabiosa and some honeysuckle berries. It's the honeysuckle berries that are harmful to toxic, depending on what information you're looking at. So that's that one. And then again, I did some blanket dyeing with the blue food colouring. So this has got the eco printing on. So these are the purple from the honeysuckle berries, and then the blue from the food colouring. I think this is probably my favourite one. It does look slightly like bruised skin though, so I'm not entirely sure about using it to make a garment, because I might just look like I'm naked and just very bruised. Never mind, but I'll style it off. Style it out even. And then this is a paler one with the rhubarb mordant. So this one was one of the fruit tea dyes, then overprinted with the eco printing. So yes, but this one's rhubarb mordant, so that's why it's got a slightly paler background, because the rhubarb does give it a slightly yellow to vaguely pink, depending on your rhubarb. Overall colour as well as acting as a mordant. So yes, so they all need ironing, and I think I'm going to sew them together as just like make them into a big sheet of fabric, and then cut out a top of some kind with it. So it'll look a bit patchwork, but I don't mind that. And now this is all assuming and hoping that once I've actually rinsed them properly, the dye doesn't all come out, because I know my technique and it could well. Now, I have lots and lots of resources at my disposal, not just the internet, because that would be an excellent source for information and advice, but I've got copious notes on one of the Jenny Dean books on natural dyeing, and I also have in my own craft library another 4 books on natural dyeing. Now I've got this one, Spinning, Weaving and Dyeing Self-Sufficiency Guide by Penny Walsh. Now this is a good sort of beginner's intro, so as it says, it covers spinning, weaving and dyeing, and tells you a bit about all of them and how to go about doing them. And it's got information on plants that you can use for natural dyeing, colours that you get from them, quantities that you need, and basically how to use them. So if nothing else, I could have read the chapter in this on natural dyeing, which I have done in the past, which is where I got the idea for my rhubarb mordant from. But no, I didn't. I could have read this book on natural dyeing that I have, which is excellent because it talks about different effects that natural dyes will have on cotton or cellulose fibres, like cotton and silk, compared to protein fibres. No, I think silk protein fibre? Yeah. But anyway, just ignore me. It compares dyeing on silk and cotton to dyeing on wool, and shows you the different effects that the different dyes would have on each of the different types of things. Now this is also a brilliant book, and even better is that the art layout was done by my friend Emma. So I'll put all the details for these. Yes, the art editor. It's her official title for this. So didn't read that one either before starting. A more recent addition to my craft library, The Modern Natural Dyer by Christine Vijar. Sorry if I've mispronounced that. Somebody can correct me if they know the best way to say it. And she's one of the people behind A Verb for Keeping Warm. Now this not only goes through natural dyeing techniques and gives you some ideas for projects that you can do, it also has a specific section on eco-printing. No. Didn't use that one either. And then a bit more of a specialist one. I've got this one, the book on lichen dyes. So using lichens and mosses to be your dye stuffs for your natural dye in there. So this is Lichen Dyes, New Source book by Karen Dydick Castleman. Didn't use that one either. Must try harder and be a little bit more scientific about my approach. So yes, like I say, I'll put the links to all those books in the information box down below. So if you want to have a go at natural dyeing or eco-printing, you can read the information and do a better job. Okay, works in progress. I mentioned last week that I was planning on casting on the Enchanted Mesa by Stephen West. I cast it on out of my handspun yarn. I've cast it on. I got a little bit carried away working on it. So here it is so far. I didn't do the cowl neck because I just didn't want a cowl neck, so I've just done a folded over neckline. So I knitted twice as much as I wanted the neckline to be, and then basically picked up, I could have used a provisional cast on, and then picked up the stitches from the provisional cast on and knitted that with the corresponding stitch on the needle. But I didn't. Just did a knitted cast on, so I had a bit of a baggier stitch to begin with, and then knitted that together with the stitch from the live stitches on the needles when it got to the point where I wanted to fold it over. So yes, I'm using 3 different sets of handspun, but they actually tie together quite well. Again, it's coming out bluer than it actually is in real life. The whites is some handspun cheviot, and this purple, this sort of dark grey and purple section, and then this blue and purple section are all comb top, commercially prepared 100% merino from our local yarn store, and I really like it. I have to stop myself from working on it because this is my treat knitting, so I should only be doing this when I've finished some of the deadline knitting that I've got to do for presents or for work or whatever. But I keep going, I'll just knit a bit on there, it's a bit lovely, and because it's on 5mm needles, it's just really quick, and I'm just getting a hint of bright pink. Like, it's a lot brighter than it's coming off on screen there, but it's going to be jazzy and unusual, and I like that. And I said last week that I didn't think I was going to do the whole wonky sleeve thing, where one of them's down here and the other one's down by your, past your elbow or something, your armpit on your jumper. But I think I am. I know it doesn't seem particularly wearable, but I've looked at some of the swan shows and things recently as well, because I know there's been a couple of people working on those, and they've got armpits essentially down by your elbows, and they're wearable and practical, and you can do things in them still. So, and part of me thinks, if you're going to do a Stephen West design, you might as well go. I was trying to think of a way of saying it that didn't involve saying going balls out. Go full on for it. I mean, I know I've not done a cowl neck, but if you're gonna go for a jazzy Stephen West design, you might as well do the elements of it that make it quirky and unusual. So yes, work in progress so far. So I've got one last section of short rows to do, and then I'm onto the section for the body and one bit of armpit still, and I'll just carry on alternating the skeins of handspun until I run out of each of them. Alternate when I change, I'll have a couple of rows of the white cheviot in between. Okay, so that's that one. And then thinking about my Christmas knitting and my gift knitting, I cast on all the socks. Well, another 3 pairs. So as well as the one that you've seen that I finished, cast on 3 more pairs. All using stash yarn, so I've not had to buy anything new. So theoretically, this should make Christmas cheaper for me. But then I bought some fabric for something else, and then so it wasn't cheap anymore. Right, this first one is, I knit my socks inside out when I knit them, so I'm just turning it the right way out so it makes sense to you and you can see properly. Okay, so here we are. This is in some Drops Fable. I don't know where the ball band is, so I can't tell you what colourway it is. and I'm knitting the Hermione everyday socks, and these will be a present for a member of my family. I'm not mentioning them in case they're watching. And then it's got the slightly modified Eye of Partridge heel with garter stitch edging. And I have to say, I normally do a fish lips kiss heel on all the socks I do, because I don't have to think about it. I can just knit through it and get on. But I really enjoyed doing this one, because when I first started knitting socks, I did heel, flap and gusset, and I hated them, because picking up the stitches around the edges always just felt so messy and gappy. I ended up with lots of holes in it. It didn't look nice. But I have to say, using this slightly modified version with the garter stitch at the edge, doesn't seem, I'll know more once I work, sorry, well, once I'm working on the gusset, but it doesn't seem to be as gappy and as holy as my normal attempts at heel, flap and gusset are. So yes, I've done quite a short cuff on them, mainly because she's got massive feet, and I wanted to make sure I didn't run out of yarn. So yes, I'm really enjoying this. I've had it in my like pattern library for ages and not got around to knitting it, but I just thought, right, I'll use stuff from stash and I'll use patterns that I've already got, because that seemed a more sensible way of going about it, rather than going, I must have all new things, all new. No, use what I've got and use it wisely. Right, so that's pair number 1. Pair number 2, also from Drops Fable, that I had in stash. Now I do have the ball band for this one. It's colour 677, and it's these blues, greens, teals, the odd flash of white in there. Now you can't see very much on this so far, because I've just done the ribbing and a little bit into the sock, and again this is inside out. But for this I'm knitting the Café Macchiato socks, which is an old pattern. I think it's from about 2013 possibly, and I've forgotten the lady's name that designed it. I know back in the day, there was a podcast, they do a podcast anymore, called the Knitting in Circles podcast, and they did a knit along for it. So I bought the pattern then, and I think I knitted maybe 3 pairs of adult sized Café Macchiato socks, and then I'd modified the pattern to do a children's version as well for when my little girl was born. But these ones these are adult sized ones, same size as the other socks actually, the Hermione's everyday socks I'm working on. So you probably see these a bit easier once I've worked more, because they have a sort of a stripe down one leg of crossed over stitches. It looks quite nice actually, so it makes it a little bit more interesting than just a normal stockinette sock, but not so complicated that I can't do it when watching television or looking after children. So yes, that's another Christmas present as well. And then there's these. Now this is Noro yarn, sock yarn. It's only a single, but it feels really felted, so I'm hoping it'll be sturdy enough for socks. And having said that, the socks that I've got on at the moment, they're hand knit with a single yarn, single ply yarn. It's a commercial one, it's not a handspun one, and that's 75% wool, 25% nylon, and they've stood up quite well. I think I've had them about 2 years and they're not felted or worn through at all, so this one might be okay. Now it's the Noro sock yarn, crayon sock yarn. So this one's 70% wool and 30% nylon. and the colour number is S253. So I don't know what that means for the colour name, because I know sometimes they have names as well as numbers. But this wool, I think the first bit of it was a very bright turquoise and apple green and yellow going into a emerald green. These are just plain stockinette, and they're inside out. But this yarn, I could only ever knit it into socks for me or my mother because it was ridiculously expensive. The sock yarn itself shouldn't be, but when I bought it in the shop I was slightly harassed and distracted by 2 toddlers, and the woman overcharged me for it. Oh, hang on, I need a drink. Sorry. She mistook it for the Noro yarn that's got silk in it, and she charged me the price for that. And because I was going, toddlers everywhere, stop, put that down. Didn't realise until I'd not only gone out the shop, but gone home again. So, and it was somewhere we were on holiday, it wasn't somewhere that nearby to where we were living, so I couldn't go back and say, can I have the extra £10 back, please? So yes, this was only ever going to be socks for me or my mum. And I'm hoping, actually, that I can get socks for me and my mum out of it, and then I won't feel so bad for having it been more than expensive than it should have been. But it's got some bright greens and some bright pinks. Oh, I can't even work out. Again, this is not doing justice to the colours. Everything's bluer than it should be. So yes, that's interesting to see what colours are coming out next as it's working up into the sock. Right. And that's it for works in progress. Like I said, it's going to be a long one today because I'm already on 32 minutes. So I'll show you a couple of acquisitions. Sorry, I gulped that coffee down and now I'm belching at you. It's not professional and it's not ladylike. Now, the first acquisition are these tiny balls of wool. This is some British blue wool by Erika Knight, so it's 100% blue-faced Leicester wool, and there's a blue one here as well. Now these 25 gram balls, I have got another 2 downstairs as well, one in the brown and one in the blue. These I'm going to do a product review for the Minerva Crafts website, which I'll be cross-linking to from my blog when it's published. Now, it won't be for quite a while yet because I know they give you a 6-week window for doing the product review and get it back to them, and then they have it gets posted on their blog anything up to about a couple of months from when you send it in to them. So hopefully they'll let me know when it's coming out, and then I can mention it on the blog and on the podcast. But these, as part of my product review, I'm going to test them out by knitting them up into some Selbu type mittens. So I've got to plan those out yet and hope I've got enough yarn. If not, I'll just be knitting one mitten and seeing how it goes. And then at some point buying some more to knit the second one, so then I can use them and they were practical and useful. Now, my second acquisition I'm very excited about. I'd seen on Brit Yarn's Instagram feed, I think, that she was at like a sheep and wool fair, and while she was there she sort of was saying, oh look, these are some of the vendors, and one of the vendors was Hawkshaw Sheep, and they had farm specific fibre for spinning, sort of prepared fibre for spinning, not raw fleece but prepared bats. So this, it's 100% Shetland, and it all comes from the one farm, the flock on one farm, and it's probably the edge nearest my face is probably the most accurate colour representation, because it's sort of a fawn colour, and it smells lovely. Because it smells sheepy, but it must have been washed in some kind of scented product as well. So it's got slightly scented, but then a bit of a lanolin-y background note. I'd be quite happy with this as a perfume. Don't think my other half would be too happy, especially after his reaction to it smelling of hot lanolin when I'd done the dyeing of the socks. So, right, there's her details. There's the website details. I'll put them in the Dropbox below as well. Now I've got 3 50-gram bats, and I'm going to spin them up. I think they'll be the next thing on my wheel. It's really soft and it's really lovely. But yes, yeah, so it was really nicely packaged, which wouldn't normally be that important, because I think what the packaging is made of is probably more important than how it looks. But that did look really nice, and it was with tissue paper and things, so it was, rather than being all plastics. And the bit that really cheered me up was after I placed the order, I got a little video message by email, and it was from Sue, the woman who runs the business, letting me know that the order had posted out. And I thought, do you know, in terms of customer service, that was absolutely fantastic, because it made me happy and it made me smile. So not only was I over the moon that I'd managed to get fibre with provenance, you know, farm specific fibre that was prepared, that I could just spin with, and I could trace where it came from and what farm, you know, not to the specific sheep or anything, but know that it was UK based. It's up in Scotland rather than local to me, but still, in terms of being locally produced, it counts. And then, you know, they had really good customer service as well. So yes, that made me very happy, and it was very reasonably priced as well. So yes, that's my projects, finished objects, acquisitions, crazy attempts at eco printing that failed miserably, and now for my shameless self-promotion. I mentioned last week that I was having, well, I mentioned a couple of times actually, that I was having a pattern test knitted. Well, the test knitters are finished, and the pattern actually went live on Saturday afternoon. I'm a little bit freaked out because I briefly ended up on page 1 of Ravelry's Hot Right Now in the number 2 slot. It's all gone back to normal now. I've slipped back down. I feel much more comfortable with this situation. But yes, I think at one point I was higher up the rankings than Stephen West, and that just blew my mind. But then I did remind myself and bring myself back down to earth, because I said, yes, Nadine, it's a free pattern. Well, it's not now. There was a coupon code, so for the first 48 hours, using a certain coupon code, you got the pattern for free. And I'm like, this is why you've gone onto the page 1, because people love a free pattern, as do I. So I'll show you the items that are in the pattern, because it's got a design for a hat and a cowl in it, in the one pattern. Now, this is not styled or anything. I'll put some pictures, proper pictures at the end. But this is the cowl. This is the samples worked up in handspun yarn, and it's a textured pattern with ribbon at the top and bottom. And it's a nice short length, because I don't like ones that you have to wrap round a million times, or long drapey ones that you fold over. For me, this is a decent length, because I can just put it on and go out, and it's long enough. So the hat does look like something like this, but I can't find what I've done with it. What I've done with the sample that matches, because I knitted, there's a version in a DK weight, which is what the cowl is, and there's the hat and cowl match, they're both done in the same handspun. But then, because I've got quite a small head and it fits me perfectly, I decided I'd work it up in an Aran weight to give it an additional sizing option. So I showed you last week briefly. Now this doesn't fit me because it's the larger sizing option, but I can't find what I've done with the one that fits my head. So imagine this on some, no, I'm just going to show you it. Right, so it's actually got short row shaping, so it works out longer at the back than it does at the front. So it comes high up on your forehead and then sweeps round over your ears and goes low at the back. Just so that keeps your ears warm, but it also means that you can actually do things whilst wearing it without it slipping down over your eyes. And my test knitters really enjoyed it. Obviously I did because I'm quite biased, but yeah, so that was really good to know that other people, not just me, enjoyed doing it. Now, the coupon code that you will need, if you see this today, which I'm hoping to get it posted today, this coupon code will be valid until midnight UK time tonight. And if you just put thank you, all one word, uppercase, into the coupon code box, you will get the pattern for free. And that is valid until midnight UK time tonight, Monday the 2nd of October. But panic not if you don't see this for a couple of days. I'm going to make a specific code for podcast viewers, which will give you the pattern for half price, because I don't want you to miss out just because I've been slow at getting this out. So if you haven't seen it already and downloaded it for free, then if you use the promotional code podcast reward, all one word, all uppercase, you will get the pattern for half price. So hopefully some of you like it, and I didn't even tell you what it's called. It's called the Croydon hat and cowl set, but I'll link to the details for that down below. But yes, and if you like the textured pattern on it, I've got a couple of other free hat patterns that use the same texture, same textured stitch, but are in different styles. So you can have a whole themed wardrobe. So yes, go on, if nothing else, go and have a look at it, see if you like it. You might be able to get it for free or half price, and if you would like it, then that's going to make me happy. But if you don't like it, that's fair enough. It's not for everybody, and the style's not for everybody. I know not everybody likes a close-fitting beanie, which is what this is, and then obviously with its slightly unusual shaping, it's not going to appeal to everybody either. But for me, it serves a very useful purpose in the fact that it's a very practical hat. It's not just all about style, it's about being able to wear it when you're going out walking or digging on the allotment or anything else, where those lovely slouchy beanies or lovely slouchy hats end up not being the most practical because they slip down, or they don't cover you, or some of the different styles don't cover your ears far enough without coming right down over your eyes as well. Yes, go check it out. Croydon Croydon, so that's Coeden, hat and cowl set. Okay, I think I've waffled enough today and I'm going a bit delirious now. So I shall let you get off, and hopefully I shall see you in a couple of weeks' time. Alright then, take care, bye bye.